Welcome back to Bust Picks, episode 40, the only show where we'll do 39 episodes where I'm speaking to the back of the mic.
Yeah, we figured that out. Moving studios, and we checked your audio equipment for the first time in a little bit.
Yeah, so we moved studios. Things are a little different.
Yeah.
We have a space now. Before we were using the other side of my room, the wall in my room.
Yeah.
Very cramped space. We have we have less space, but we have more space.
It's a smaller.
We have a corner.
Yeah, we have a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to make this our corner. This corner is going to be our home. This whole back wall will be touched up within like this small radius. That's it. Nothing else in this house will have any other painting or any other thing in this room.
We'll see, but yeah, I don't think so.
No,
we're going to leave
guarantee,
it barren.
I promise.
We'll leave the space barren.
Yeah. Hi, Don. Welcome back. We had a couple weeks off.
Yeah.
Some scares, some family stuff happened. Couldn't record last week. Don was also on vacation.
Yeah.
No family stuff
nature.
with you. Just going out to Zion, having a great time.
Yeah, just got a little bit of relaxation before the panic-inducing of fantasy football drafts and
we're going to talk about that later.
Season starting. So
get
a little reset.
What was your favorite thing that happened in Zion?
We got to hike the Narrows, which I recommend to anybody who goes out to Zion in Utah, southern Utah, for anyone who doesn't know. There's hiking trails that go through rivers, and so you're basically hiking through a twisting canyon, and every time you round a corner, it's a completely new view, and you're about waist deep in water the entire time, so you don't get hot or anything. It's like 100 degrees, but you can just dunk your head.
Waist deep in water
it's gorgeous, especially right after a rain. There's hundreds of waterfalls that pop up all throughout the park. It is just beautiful to see.
There's nothing that sounds more unappealing to me than what you just said.
No, I know. But
shout out to all those people.
To me, it's great.
That sounds horrifying. But, shout out to Zion. Don, do you have a fact of the day for me?
I do have a fact of the day.
Give me a fact.
So, fact of the day, something I think it was being slept on a little bit after the Olympics. I didn't really see too much coverage on it.
Yeah.
But women's wrestling.
Women wrestling.
Women wrestling. So, Amit Eleanor became the first American wrestler to earn every international wrestling title before the age of 21.
Oh, what country is she from?
The American.
Oh, sick.
So she has won the Cadet World Championship.
Fire.
The Junior World Championship 3 times.
I heard that one's important.
The U23 Championship twice.
That's cool.
The Pan Am, which is Pacific
airplane,
America.
Yeah.
Senior World Championship twice, and then the Olympic gold medal. She's only 20 years old.
Wow, so she has another few years of being dominant, or is wrestling kind of like she peaked already?
No, I mean, Cuba had a wrestler at 45, and he came back after a 3-year retirement and won another gold for his
Shout
fifth.
out to Cuba.
So it's like you could keep going. I mean, she's a few months away from her 21st and already has 10 international gold medals.
That's crazy. So she's like a legendary wrestler.
At this point, she's in that
category. If only people cared about the sport of wrestling more. I feel like it's like...
After you get out of college, there's not too much coverage, I feel, after the NCAA.
Wrestlers really, really love wrestling, obviously, but like the wrestling community is huge. And like once you're into it, you're kind of really into it.
Yeah.
My dad was a high school wrestler, and he like coached for years on years until, stuff. And then he just decided to stop. Wrestling is a really fun community. We have friends that wrestled.
Yeah, I do.
I think it's a really, really fun time. I think the problem with wrestling is it got completely overshadowed by the better wrestling, which is the one that you watch. WWE, AEW, stuff like that.
I've always been strange to that because so the wrestling, like the Olympic style, the Greco-Roman style, is considered amateur.
Yeah.
But professional is the WWE.
Here's the thing.
Which seems...
As a new WWE viewer in the past year and a half, I can honestly say I've had more fun watching that, interacting with those fans and interacting with that lore and culture than I ever have of wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling.
I think it is more flashy, and
it's cool.
You get the personality storylines out of it. Greco-Roman, I think, is a lot more technical, and a lot of the better pro wrestlers came out of the Greco-Roman style.
You know what I realized? I'm not that big of a combat sports guy.
Yeah.
Like the UFC, I'll watch UFC fight nights, like the one that just happened with Izzy and stuff. I'll watch it.
Sure.
But I'm not losing my mind over the weekend fights and stuff like that. Boxing, I've never been a boxing guy. Okay. So maybe combat sports just isn't my thing. Which
is fine. I mean, it is a certain mindset to watch two other humans try to beat each other.
Yeah, well, I watch humans try to beat each other at everything.
No, but I mean physically beat each other. Yeah, I didn't mean like a winner-loser situation.
Yeah, I'll watch competitive chess. I've done that. I mean, dude,
that's exhilarating.
Your girlfriend's brother-in-law, me and him sat down. We watched competitive Tetris for 2 hours one night. Like it was just
that is the most wild sport.
Yeah, no, it's one day we'll have a breakdown of full esports and we'll like really get into it because I know you're into esports.
Yeah, mainly CS:GO and League. But
maybe we can get like my brother on who like gambles on like CS:GO and League and like Call of Duty League and all that stuff.
Sure,
that's a fun.
That'll be a fun little breakdown.
Let's get into our main breakdown. We have 4 more divisions to go in the NFL to finish our roundup.
Yep. Before the season starts,
we're gonna finish the NFC today. Next week we'll finish the AFC, and we'll touch a little bit of college football preview next week. I know college football starts this weekend, but it's not the real game.
It's Hawaii and Delaware. That's not,
we're going to talk about that later. But let's talk about the NFC East. I think there's a lot of people are making assumptions about this division. A lot of people have a lot of ideas of what's going to happen in this division. I feel really strongly about my takes in this division, Don.
This is the division of hot takes, I feel.
Really?
Because, I mean, and it's mainly because of the rivalries. Like, this is one of the most storied rivalry divisions.
Let me give you a hot take.
Sure.
I think the best team in the NFC is in this division.
Sure.
I think the team that's going to have the number 1 seed is in this division.
That's not too crazy of a hot take. There's only like 2 teams competing for that in my mind.
I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I think they have the ability to win the Super Bowl this year. I think even if their coach is so bad, they'll still have the ability to fire him and add Kellen Moore and just continue to rally off of what's going on there.
Yeah.
They're in a great scenario.
So, let's get into the Eagles a little bit then.
Oh, do you have them first?
I have them first, of course.
Yeah. I have them going 13-4.
I'm at 11-6.
Okay, that's way different.
I think it's going to take a week or two because you have 2 brand new coordinators bringing in 2 completely new systems.
Yeah.
So I always, whenever it's a new coordinator like this, I think end of the year they'll be hot, they'll be fine, not concerned. There may be a growing pain here or there in the beginning. That's what I'm betting on.
I would feel that way if they didn't substantially lose anyone but Jason Kelce on the inside.
Yeah.
And they plugged it in with the guy who's been sitting behind him and learning behind him for the past 2 years.
We'll see how good he is, though. Jason's a huge loss.
Correct. He's one of the best centers of all time.
Yes.
He is one of the best centers of all time. He's very, very good at what he does. They said they're going to run the tush-push less because that's how much of an important anchor Jason was.
Yeah, the man's a beast.
But adding Saquon to an already really good offensive line.
Yes.
Adding another year under Devonta Smith's belt, who I think is going to flash and quickly show you guys that this is the best duo in the NFL, hands down. And I think Dallas Goedert still got a few years in him. I think Hurts is a legit top 7 quarterback in the league.
I think he's there.
And I think he shows the world what he is.
Yeah.
And this defense got better. Like, they did get better across the board.
They got younger.
Yes.
That's the thing. Their D-line stayed kind of similar for the most part.
Yeah, they lost us on Reddick, but like they were still able to add some pieces around them.
But the secondary and the linebacker core got substantially younger.
Yeah.
A lot more rookies, second-year guys.
Yeah.
Which
I like that.
I think the inexperience may
but they
arise.
Still have veterans there.
They still do, yeah.
To anchor the spots that they need.
Yeah, no, they still have the core. They still have the core in place.
Yeah.
But I think those kind of heads up plays, like if you get a Tyreek Hill Waddle crossing route, that's more my concern. Is just those momentary flashes of, hey, you're still learning. You'll get it by a few weeks, but just the early season stuff.
That's the second best duo in the league there.
No, that's
so
true.
It's like, anyone's going to have issues with that. That's Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But when they're playing CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks, I'm sure they have the corners to be able to handle that situation.
No, they
problem.
do. But I'm saying, I think those kinds of plays. I'm not naming, I was just trying to use that as an example.
Yeah.
I think those kinds of plays where it is tougher on an inexperienced secondary for communication reasons. That's where I'm going to look for Fangio to really train up these guys after a couple weeks.
I like Fangio. I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league.
Yeah.
I think Kellen Moore, I know he's gotten a lot of head coach hype, and I do think there's a world where if this team starts off slow and the head coach gets fired, I think Kellen Moore can quickly slide into that spot and they will rally around him.
And I think that's the benefit is Fangio has the head coaching experience as well.
Yeah.
So it's like even though they may not be the best head coaches for prospect wise because they haven't really done too much.
I also haven't given up completely on Nick Sirianni. I don't think he's completely awful like other people are saying.
I think with this change in coaching, keeping the majority of the core, this will prove whether or not it's him or not.
So that's where we're at on the Eagles. Yeah. What's your number 2 in the division?
Number 2 is the Cowboys. I
have my Cowboys. I have 10-7.
I'm 9-8.
Okay.
The Zeke issue worries me.
I don't think they have a running back on this roster. I know you're a little into Rico Daddle.
I like Rico.
I don't think they have anything.
I like Rico as a fantasy guy.
Yeah.
I like him as a scat back. I do not trust them within the 20.
I think that the Dallas Cowboys purposely are putting Dak Prescott in the most weaponless offense he has had in the past few years.
Yeah.
So on a contract year purposely, so that way they can get a discount on him.
Well, let's get into not just Dak.
Yeah.
CeeDee holding out.
Correct. And
which was reported today by Jerry Jones, came out and said that there are promising talks with CeeDee. I take that as far as you trust Jerry Jones.
Other reporters have also, like Adam Schefter, came out and said CeeDee Lamb is definitely going to play this season.
I think he's playing this season,
and he
no
will
matter
play
what.
week 1. It's just, doesn't it feel like, hey, if we kind of want to blackball our quarterback a little bit, let's take his number 1 option. We didn't really give him any substantial number 2 anywhere.
No, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert.
That's what I'm saying. And Jake Ferguson, who is a good weapon at tight end. But this Dak, I don't think is at the point where no running game and like very low tier receivers.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can carry. It feels like a disaster, and it feels like something that they're ready to be like, all right, we can move on, or hey, you can't take $55 million or $60 million like you're asking, but can you take 48? And then all of a sudden they got Dak on a deal.
But see, I don't know if it's 100% shooting at Dak because this is also Mike McCarthy, the head coach last season as well in his contract. So this might be. I think they're pushing in, going, here's your original core, here's the old guard,
figure it out.
Figure it out. If this doesn't work, we need to blow it up.
I don't think they'll ever blow it up because they're consistently young enough in the right spots to be dangerous.
But I think they're going to move on from at least out of the 4 because Zeke's on a 1 year, Dak's on a contract, CeeDee's on a contract, McCarthy's on a contract.
CeeDee's on the team no matter what.
Yeah, but I'm saying at the end of this season, 2 out of those 4 are gone. If they do not,
Zeke's gone already. It's more of like a. Are they going to try to get Dak on a contract?
We'll see.
Yeah,
he clearly has a ceiling that he has consistently hit. He has yet to break through. I still think
Dak Prescott can take you to the Super Bowl.
I don't know if he can.
I think if you put enough good players around him, he could take you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but can you afford to put enough good players around him with what he's asking?
I think that's the problem.
And that's the issue with the quarterback controversies with like every team right now is the market's gotten high enough where you can't really, you have to hit on a rookie or 2 on receiver. You cannot pay your quarterback big money because you have to. Otherwise, you're looking for franchise guys.
That's
and you
been
get
the blueprint
stuck.
for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. It's guys like Mahomes who are like, I'm technically not a top 10 paid quarterback anymore. Like it's crazy.
No, you pick, but you could get all the money on endorsements.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna live my other life. He also lives in Kansas City, where like $1 million lasts way longer than
Dallas does. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Who's your number 3 team? I think we have the same number 3 team.
My number 3 is the Commanders.
Okay, what do you have the Commanders?
7-10.
I have them 8-9.
Okay.
I think the Commanders are sneaky good. I think there's gonna be a little stretch where we're looking at the Commanders and we're like, what's going on over here in Washington?
I think over 6 wins for this team, successful season.
I think they are kind of bought themselves into the Jaden Daniels hype.
Yeah.
I think they kind of understand that this offense has enough weapons for them to be like, well, we should be good on offense until you realize that offensive line's kind of garbage.
The O-line needs work, without a doubt, but they do still have one of the best D-lines in the league.
Great D-line.
Young secondary core.
Yeah,
so that's going to be good.
Very good players on that defense.
But where I'm coming is you have a brand new head coach in Dan Quinn. Like new head coach to the team. Obviously, Quinn's coached other places.
Dan Quinn's identity will be very, very like strong in the beginning. I think that defense is going to improve almost immediately.
Yes.
And that offense is going to have its woes, but I think we're going to have moments of Jaden Daniels being like, well, we got some young quarterbacks in this league.
I think him and Bo Nix are the 2 most pro-ready quarterbacks day one.
Have you watched Caleb Williams throw a pass yet?
Caleb Williams looks great. Don't get me wrong. I have all the hype up for Caleb Williams.
We're going to talk about him later, so I don't want to get really
He has his flashes, but he didn't look as efficient at these 2.
You are how much of your Jaden Daniels hype is in the idea that you have bought into him fantasy-wise?
It was me watching him that made me buy in.
Okay.
That was that transition.
He's very good
yes.
at the simple things. I don't think his arm is anywhere close to as dynamic as Caleb Williams.
No, I think Caleb Williams will have a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
But I think because of the Bears' complete lack of O-line, he's going to be scrambling a lot. And it's going to be...
That's the way he plays.
That's the way he plays. But
Even
I think,
with a good offensive line, he runs
that
around.
makes me concerned for bad mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to...
There's going to be some weird habits that might develop out of it. That's my concern with Caleb.
He's going to throw picks.
Yeah. And
he's going to throw picks.
But I think Daniels is better at... Because Daniels not afraid to run a little bit more than Caleb.
Yeah, but
that's going to cover up and mask some of those
even in
inefficiencies.
preseason games, he's forgetting to slide.
Yeah.
Like he
is
knew
worrisome.
immediately. He got up and he was shaking his head, and Dan Quinn was the first one in his face. Like, what are you doing?
Just get down,
yeah.
dude.
I
think if he could get that, I think that running ability will cover up so much of that inefficiency around him, and then you have stronger. I think like a stronger run game. You have a good veteran. You have two good veterans that you could distribute the ball to. That will be
Brian Robinson,
good friends.
Third year. I wouldn't call him a veteran yet, but he knows how to play the game.
You have a strong back, and then I think Eckler is going to be his favorite friend because it's a safety blanket.
Yeah,
whereas Caleb Williams, I don't know if I trust Swift to be that.
Yeah, but they got another. I would take the Bears running back core over the Commanders running back core right now. Personally, I think Khalil Herbert has some give in him. I think Roshan Johnson's still a very good player, and I think DeAndre Swift is limited, and we know his ceiling, but he's still a very good running back.
I think it's just too many mouths.
It's a lot of mouths, but
because they all overlap in ability versus Eckler and Brian Robinson, clear roles, clear split.
Yeah, I know Brian Robinson's going to be on the play on the field first and second down and on the goal line.
Yeah,
I know when Austin Eckler's going to be on the field.
Yeah.
Last team, I think. This is one of the worst teams in the league this year. The New York Giants, I have them winning 3 games this year.
I have them going 5.
Okay.
Because I think their defense is fierce enough to steal a 1 or 2.
I think they have the best defensive line in football. One of them.
One of the top ones, without a doubt.
I think they are stacked defensive line-wise. But other than that, their offensive line's still bad.
Yes.
Daniel Jones is going to get so much hate this year. And I'm not the biggest Daniel Jones guy. I'm not usually the one screaming out here being like, Daniel Jones, he's got something in him. I don't. I think they should have given up on him 3 years ago. But they didn't. They paid him. They got to stay with him. And now they're stuck holding the bag. They have to play him this year. They have to suck this year. They have to swallow the bed that they made for themselves. I don't think guys are going to get fired here. If anything, the GM might. But I think Daboll's staying. I think he's staying because this isn't his fault of the situation. I think this is a bad team. When I look at it, I'm like, the over-reliance on Malik Neighbors. There's not a lot of outstanding players here. They haven't drafted well. That defensive line can only do so much.
I think Daniel Jones will be better this season than we've seen in preseason. I mean, he's still shaking off the rust.
He is also
coming off a catastrophic injury.
The worst preseason quarterback debut I've ever seen.
Yeah. He's never been good in preseason typically.
Yeah,
but he figures it out.
You would think a 6-year vet, 6 or 7 year vet, 6-year vet would be better by now.
No, but I discount it because he's coming off injury.
I get that.
He hasn't really thrown a ball much until now.
I mean, he's been at camp. He's been at mini camp. He's been throwing a ball for 4 months. Like he's very much been
for 4 months
since June. So 2.5 months.
3.
3 months.
2.5 is a lot different than 4.
Yeah,
but that's also I think
3 months.
I think going against one of his first times going against a live defense in this manner, he's gonna get it back. But it's just more
practices though. Like
those are very different than a game time play. I think it's more he's just going to have to get comfortable with his knee and ankle again, which he will. Like, that's the whole point of these
But he wasn't even good
playing.
when he was comfortable in his knee and ankle.
He was fine. He was serviceable.
I think you're thinking about fantasy.
No, I think overall he made errors.
Do you think Daniel Jones in his career has ever been better than Derek Carr?
I think he's at games where he has. Not seasons, but games.
Okay, but do you think there's been long stretches of period where Daniel Jones has been better than Derek Carr? I don't think so.
I think it's kind of comparable. I think late career Carr, where he's on the Saints now,
I think
might
it's
be comparable.
close. Yeah,
it's
I
close.
think right now they're the closest they've ever been.
Yeah,
and you're right.
But I think
there's been moments in like 4-game stretches where you're like, Daniel Jones is looking pretty good.
Yeah,
but like so is Derek Carr. So like I'm like
that's fine. And but they're both serviceable. They're both good enough to start.
I don't think so. I think now in this world of the NFL, you either need to have your franchise guy or you have to be looking for your franchise guy now.
I mean, you could look while you keep having these guys sit.
Yeah, the Falcons method. How did that go for them on draft day? They got laughed out of the building.
I mean, that's because they signed. They paid a bunch of money and then went and got their backup right then. I mean, they got laughed out of the building, but they're doing the Packers method. Yeah, that's what happened with Jordan Love, and it could work out. So I don't hate on it.
I don't hate on it either.
It's head scratching. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not against it if it pans out.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe the Saints do the same thing with Spencer Rattler. NFC North, let's talk about it.
NFC South.
Oh, NFC South, sorry.
We've covered the North.
Don, what's your number one team in the NFC South?
I am buying in on the Falcons hype here a little bit. I think they go 10 wins. I mean, that's kind of that's their peak in my mind. And I'm blaming it on, I think the Saints take a big dip, and I'm buying in on a Buccaneers dip.
I have the Falcons as well. I think they have the easiest schedule in the league.
They do have the easiest.
I think Kirk Cousins is going to give you a Brett Favre-esque season with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see the emergence of this Pitts and London offense for the first time with Bijan. I like the coaching around them. They've made moves on the defensive side to make me go, that's a good defense.
They haven't made enough on the pass rush for me yet.
Yeah, but
they were one of the bottom pass rush teams, bottom 7 in almost every statistical category, and they never really added anybody.
No, when they could have taken the best pass rusher in the draft, they
got Penix.
Yeah, and I think that's them being more of like we have a specific strategy. Maybe they think that they can internally figure out pressure. I still think getting to the quarterback is going to be a problem for them.
Yes.
But I think that this this head coach has a defensive mind, and his ability, it's Raheem Morris?
Yeah.
His ability to figure out how to get to the quarterback is something he's never had issues with. I think they're going to figure out this defense.
I think it will improve. Especially
in a division that doesn't exactly have explosive offenses yet.
Yeah, not too many sitting around right now. I'm hoping for we get Kirk back fully healthy. That injury at his age does make me a little concerned. It same red flag I'm holding for Aaron Rodgers. It does make me a little more apprehensive. But I think this one will work out pretty okay.
How many wins do you say for them? I have them at 12.
Okay, I have Falcons at 10.
Okay, I have them at 12 wins because of how easy the division is. I have them third seed in the NFC as of right now, behind the Niners and the Eagles.
I think that's a big ask for this team to completely flip in one season.
I do think it's a big flip. I think they're ready for it. I think there's always teams that do that. There's always a team that comes in last or bottom tier and then fights back up. This is a team that's primed for it, and I think the probably most mature team ready for it. I like their coaching, too.
Okay.
I think the Falcons are doing everything right now.
I think they're doing
the first time ever.
Yeah, I think they're doing things right at the moment, without a doubt.
My number 2 team in the NFC South is going to shock everyone. I'm taking the Panthers.
Okay, I have them at 3.
Okay, I think the Panthers might sneak into playoffs. I have them at 8-1.
Okay.
I have them being the tie game that I alluded to in our first division breakdown.
Yeah.
Against the Chargers. Raiders, Panthers, week 6 tie game. Lock it in.
I mean, take that future now for that confident Dan.
Panthers, I like Bryce Young. I have been the Bryce Young guy. I'm standing on this mountain and I'm screaming into the sky, I believe in Bryce Young. I like Deontay Johnson. I think Brooks is going to be a good running back in this league. I don't know if he's going to immediately set the world on fire, but I think he can be a lot. I think this defense is a sneaky good defense. They have great players on this defense. J.C. Horn's a good corner.
Yeah.
Thompson's a good inside linebacker. Not Latu, but Liata is another inside linebacker. Might be one of the most dangerous inside linebacker combos in the league. They do lose Brian Burns. I don't think they have much of a defensive line, which is really going to hurt them.
Yeah.
But this is a good team. Jeremy Chin in the secondary is a very good safety.
I think their defense is solid.
Offensive line got improved. Like, they had addressed it.
They finally did. My concern is Deontay Johnson has spent a lot of time hurt the last couple of years.
Correct, yeah.
So without him, you're going to Jonathan Mingo and
Adam Thielen.
The ghost of Adam Thielen.
And Leggett. They went and drafted a kid. They moved up in the draft to go get a wide receiver.
Yeah, so there's a lot of question marks on this offense, how it's going to work. They were bottom 3 in nearly every category.
Yeah.
I am taking they are going to make a step forward. I
think they're going to make
agree with
a big
that.
jump. I also love their head coach. He's a dangerous coordinator. He comes from the same Shanahan, same Miami tree. I've seen what they've been doing in preseason. I'm like, this is a different offense. This isn't the same stale, we don't know what to do with our team offense. If I'm not predicting Tua numbers, I'm not. But the comparison is there for Bryce Young to be a more athletic Tua Tagovailoa.
I don't know if he's going to go that. I think he's more pocket. Like,
he can move.
Yeah, he can. He has that mobility.
He's not running down the field. But
no, okay.
He's stretching outside the pocket. Tua doesn't do that.
Yeah,
like he's not just sitting in the pocket and moving around there. He's going to be able to roll out and make some plays.
Yeah, he could roll out a little bit there. I think it's just the weapons that concern me. Like I do think Brooks is going to be great.
I think he'll be good. I don't know. I don't know what.
I think long term he'll be good.
Yeah.
This season, coming off a major injury, they're projecting week 2 when he'll be healthy.
I want him week 3, week 4.
But I think he's not going to really find his footing until later. That's just how most running backs coming off those injuries, unless you're Adrian Peterson or Frank Gore, have happened.
Yeah, youth is a different thing. Usually guys who are young can come into the league and immediately just be like, all right, check this out.
No, coming off.
Todd Gurley injury is exactly what I point to. It's the exact same injury, exact same timeline, exact same week return date around week 3, week 4, where I'm like, oh, yeah, Todd Gurley got drafted that in 2015, and by week 10, we were like, oh, yeah, Todd Gurley why'd we But
then you have a lot of other guys like Cam Akers where we see it go the other direction. And so
Cam Akers was not ever touted as the number 1 pick in his draft.
True, but I'm saying you see a lot more running backs have the opposite occur to them, where they come off the injury and it takes a few months to finally get the strength back because you can't really work it out until you're ready to play.
Yeah, that's my whole thing, though. I think it's a talent thing because usually when the talented player comes back on that timeline, they're able to figure it out. I don't know if it's
a talent as much as just a rehab because, like, you saw that with J.K. Dobbins when he came back from his
J.K. Dobbins,
season.
Once again, not as talented as Jonathan Brooks. Never has been, never will be.
That's a big
J.K. Dobbins was, and I liked
a second-round pick.
I understand that Jonathan Brooks would have been a first-round pick and a high first-round pick if not for the ACL injury. Jonathan Brooks, if Bijan Robinson wasn't his starter, Jonathan Brooks really would have been a top 10 pick. And a lot of people don't because a lot of people don't watch Texas, or people watch Texas ball.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on. Adonai Mitchell. They had another kid, Hawkins, who's now a Rams sneaky guy. That Texas offense and what Sarkisian is doing down there, they're producing demons. And Brooks, when I watch him, I'm like, this guy has Dalvin Cook talent.
So where are you projecting his final stat lines then? Because
this year, I still don't expect him to be great. I think he's in the 900 rushing yards club.
900 after coming off an ACL and missing a week.
Missing 3 weeks.
And coming in as a backup.
He's not a backup.
You don't think he's going to back up Chuba?
I think he will.
Or split time?
I think he will in the beginning, but I think by week 7, we're yep, that's Jonathan Brooks' role. And I think next year, if we're talking fantasy,
I think next year he takes over.
He immediately is above A-Chain. He's very
end of the season, beginning of next season, he'll be great.
Correct.
I'm not seeing him explode until week 8, week 9.
Yeah, that's what I said week 7.
Okay, but that's 900 yards is a lot to ask for in that short a span.
Yeah, I think he can hit it. I think he can hit 1,000 all-purpose yards. Okay. I think he can hit 1,000 all-purpose yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little under that, but all right.
Yeah. We're going on to the next team, Don. Who is your number 2 team?
Mine's Buccaneers. I have them at 7-10.
I also have the Buccaneers at 7-10.
Okay.
What did you have the Panthers?
I have them at 6-11. Okay. I have them right there.
I have them 8-1. I have them 7-10 for the Buccaneers.
Sure. So we're within 2 games.
The Buccaneers are our most disappointing team of the year.
I don't think they're the most disappointing. They're returning most of their core. Baker played out of his mind last season.
Got paid. Shout out to Baker.
Yeah, so it's more of are you betting that he can redo that?
I'm betting that this offensive line isn't healthy. I'm betting that maybe Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to start losing a bit of a step.
I mean, we saw Godwin lose a bit of a step last season in my mind.
I think Rashad White is about to get exposed a little bit, and Bucky Irving might explode on the scene for a little bit. I think this defense has lost a lot of gusto in the past few years, and maybe isn't the defense that they wanted to.
No,
they lost an offensive coordinator. It's kind of weird how little they've been able to retain. They did keep Baker Mayfield, but this isn't the same Buccaneers team as last year. It's not the same Buccaneers team from 2 years ago.
Majority of the offense is still the same.
Yeah, but it's not.
Almost
it's not the same.
I mean,
they don't feel the same. It doesn't feel the same as last year. Last year, we kind of knew what they were going to be.
Did we? Because last year, everyone was down on them considering Baker coming
I still
out.
had them winning the division.
Okay, that was not the majority of the projections.
I still had them winning their division. I believe in Baker, though.
That's true.
I not that I don't believe in Baker. I just don't see him being able to repeat the numbers. I think them losing their offensive coordinator to be a head coach is going to be exposed very, very quickly.
Okay.
And I think that they're going to be in some spots that they're not exactly comfortable in. I still think they're going to be like a mighty team that still pulls off some shockers. But I think a 7-10 team and going into the offseason next year being like, all right, maybe we should go draft another guy at quarterback.
Okay, so you and I are similar there. Cause sitting at 7-10. Their O-line is really worrisome, 29th in adjusted line yards.
They've completely changed since Brady left.
They have went and drafted Barton in the first to shore up their O-line a little bit more, add a little bit more talent there.
Duke tackle or guard.
Yeah, guard. But I could see them finishing second just because I don't know if the Panthers are going to make that big of a jump. But like you said, I think the Bucs are still going to pull out some crazy wins because Mike Evans is still one of the best 50-50 ball guys in the league.
I think he's probably the best as of right now before the season starts.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anyone else I'd want catching 50-50 ball right now.
There's very few guys I would trust more. Very few.
I'm trying to think. A.J. Brown, maybe. Probably A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown, I would put DK, and I would say Mike Williams.
Mike Williams has blown his knee out 3 times. I can't do it. I understand, but I don't get it.
I'm not saying for an entire season. I'm just saying if I threw up a 50-50 ball, those are the 4 guys I want the most.
I would still take Michael Pittman Jr. I would still take Mark Andrews. I would still take Travis Kelce. I would still take George Kittle. Like, there's so many other players I would take over Mike Williams. Whatever. I think I might hate Mike Williams.
That's what it feels like.
I think I'm tired of this Mike Williams. Yeah, I'm tired of the Mike Williams hype.
You seem really angry
I don't like
at Mike Williams.
Mike Williams just got on the hate list. You accidentally put Mike Williams on my hate list. That's how easily it happens. Last team in the division. Let's say together 1, 2, 3. Saints. Saints are bad. Huh?
It's mainly they made some weird decisions. They're in cap purgatory right now.
Yeah.
One of the worst cap situations in the league. I think the worst cap situation. But they added to their defensive pass rush because that needed to be beefed up again for some reason. Chase Young and Willie Gay are both great. They're going to. I think the defense
very
is still
good linebacker.
Great core there. Great additions for one season. But their offense 20th in DVOA, 16th in expected yards average, or expected EPA. They have no depth at receiver. You have Shaheed, Olave, and who?
Yeah, it's tough over there. And
Kamara's over 30.
I think this is Derek Carr's last year as a starter.
Yeah.
I think the Taysom Hill experience is dry now.
Dennis Allen loves Taysom Hill.
Dennis,
until Dennis Allen is gone, Taysom Hill's on this roster.
I don't want to get too into this team right now because I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. Here's what I'll say. I think Alvin Kamara's wheels fall off this year. I'm sorry to the one other person in this room that drafted Alvin Kamara in the second round of a fantasy draft.
That's fine. I think his PPR will be fine.
Yeah, I think 30 years old running back who's had a lot of carries and touches in his career. Yeah. It's just something I don't believe in on an offensive line that, yes, it's good, but also old. A coaching staff that has clearly shown you they can't do enough. Quarterback who has clearly taken a step back. And a defense that is old. Tyrann Mathieu and Cam Jordan being your premier defense. And Demario Davis.
Yep.
Those guys are all over 35 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying 35 is like washed. You can still be a good player at that age.
That is an older guy.
It's very concerning for me to be like, oh, you're 3. Marshawn Lattimore's still there, and he's only like 27. But, like, still, like, those are 3 cornerstone defensive players that I'm like, oh, yeah. And who's your other say? Adams? Jonathan Adams, the guy who got cut by like 3 different teams? The Raiders cut him. That's how bad he was.
No, I think this team is going to, until they just blow it up completely.
This is a 5-win team for me.
I have them at 5 as well. I don't think I'm as a negative. I just think it's more the Falcons are making upgrades, and I think the Panthers step up. That's what I think is going to cause them issues because they have no way to go and fill up any gap anymore with the cap space.
Let's get into Bust of the Week. Bust of the Week. I have a very specific situation. I told you this story earlier today. Yeah. I want to recap it to the people that haven't heard it. College football's back this weekend. Kind of. I try to lie to myself around this time of year where I'm like, college football's back. It's week 0. We get to watch some games. And I'm going to read you off some of the games that we get this week. So it's more of like this is our preseason. If you're a football fan like me and you're like, I live for football, use this weekend as like a barometer to be like, all right, my eyes are ready to start watching football again. We're getting Portland State versus Washington State.
Washington State should be interesting.
It's not going to be great. Oh, no, that's next week. We're not even getting that, Don. We're getting... Oh, my gosh. Okay, we're getting Florida State versus Georgia Tech. That's going to be an
That's going to be a fun one.
I think the spread's only 10.5 on that. I think Florida State might beat them by 20. Montana State versus New Mexico. Montana State favored minus 11.5 against New Mexico. Probably going to sprinkle some New Mexico money on that. SMU versus Nevada. Not that bad of a game. I can watch that game. That's SMU's in the ACC now.
Yeah.
I'll watch that game. But here's the game I want to talk about for Bust of the Week. It's Delaware State versus Hawaii.
Yeah.
It starts at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That means it starts on what time on the East Coast? 12 o'clock at night on the East Coast?
They are 3 hours ahead.
Okay, so Delaware, it starts for them at 12 o'clock.
At midnight.
Now, if you were able to inclimate to like the environment of Hawaii for a few days, maybe you have a shot, right?
Sure.
But they missed their plane ride today, and they're trying to figure out how to get there in time for the game. They had bus delays, and it sounds like they're not going to get there till Thursday, which means they're really only going to have one day to get used to the time change.
To completely get over jet lag.
Probably only have one walkthroughs, and they are now 39.5-point underdogs against Hawaii. A Hawaii team that a lot of people kind of have as sneaky, like could be a 7-win team. I'm hammering Hawaii. I hammered them when the spread was only 32. I'm going to hammer them again at 40. This feels like a Hawaii, check it out, Delaware, you're about to get stomped on game.
Yeah, I think the worrisome part for the 40-point spread is do they run it up? Mm-hmm. Like they're gonna be in control. It's do they want to run up the score by more than 4 touchdowns?
Yeah,
that's going to be the. Let's see what happens.
They will.
Okay.
Because in college you get style points.
True, but I think 40 is a big ask.
Teams do it all the time in college.
We'll see. I think it's up to the coaches, and that's where I'm. Are you
excited? Next week we get to start recapping games again, and predict. Yeah. Next week we start predicting games.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a good time without a doubt.
It's going to be the whole shift of this show changes again.
True.
Don, who's your bust of the week?
Russell Wilson. Just looked awful in my mind. And if you look at the Bears stat lines,
I'm gonna let you have it.
8 and 10 for 47 passing yards, no interceptions, no rushing yards.
Yeah,
not the worst.
It's definitely first year in Denver numbers from Russie.
Until you watch the game footage and look a little bit deeper behind the numbers. Picking up 3 sacks for minus 21 yards, so that means his net yardage was 26.
Yeah.
On 8 completions.
Correct.
Over 5 drives.
Correct.
That is the concerning part.
It's not good.
He was taking, and the sacks he took were mental errors on his part. He no longer has the athleticism, the shiftiness to spin out of the pocket and make a play. He's still convinced he did. We saw this in Denver. He is still convinced he has that athleticism. He refuses to step up into a clean pocket to make the throw. He is going to try to roll out. And teams know that. They are just containing the edges and telling him, throw over us or throw through us, and he refuses to. Yeah. These are mental errors on his part. I think this game lost him the starting job. I think this game cemented Justin Fields to go start now.
Justin Fields didn't look good either.
He didn't look great, but he's not as much of a risk.
As a Baltimore Ravens fan, are you eating this up? Is this your favorite thing to watch right now?
Not really.
What do you mean?
Because it's like they're still going to find a way to do something because of their defense being that great. but it's more. I just feel sad. Like I watch Russ on this, and I pity him. It's like you're not evolving with the game. He's like every quarterback as they get older, especially the athletic ones, need to switch up their game style a little bit. Need to figure something else out. Find that next level.
Yeah.
Add that new ability, and just watching him refuse to is just kind of like, what are you doing? Like. You had so much talent. Like, why are we... Like, this is all stuff that could have been cleared up years ago had you just wanted to push it.
As a 10-plus year Russell Wilson hater, I have been having a great time on Twitter. Watching all the Russie, oh my God, Russie tweets, and just going back and bookmarking them, and then, like, now going back and replying. And I know it's really early to reply to those, but being like, oh... sucks, like it's awesome. I know you're kind of a Justin Fields guy too.
I like Fields. I think that his biggest issue is he holds the ball too long, and that can be coached out of. That can be taught. Motivating a 10-plus year vet to evolve his game,
I think in year 4
a completely different thing.
I think in year 4 I know who Justin Fields is already.
You kind of know, yeah. But I think with Russ, did you see the Dan Orlovsky breakdown?
No.
He broke down. Dan Orlovsky basically did a full breakdown of a few of the completions that Russ had, basically saying, yeah, it wasn't a bad decision, but it wasn't a good one. Like, yeah, you got the completion for 2 yards, but look over here, read this safety, read this linebacker, and basically went in depth about, hey, your 2-yard pass, had you read your reads correctly, could have been a 7-yard completion instead.
I like Dan Orlovsky, and then you remember that he ran out of the end zone on accident.
Yeah.
And you're like,
But it's when that guy's able to critique you because you've had that bad of a game. Yeah. That says a lot to me.
It's more of like, I'm sure Russ knows how to play the game of football. I'm sure that mentally he's there. I think it's more of like a coaching scheme fit, where they're going. He's throwing it to his reads. I'm not blaming it 100% on Russ or on Justin Fields. The thing is, like, the way that they're trying to use him, and the way that he plays, you nailed it. He doesn't have the athleticism that made him elite. And trying to make him a pocket passer, he needed to adapt into a Drew Brees style of playing, a Tua style of playing. Not that he refuses. He doesn't have the ability. He doesn't have the touch. Russ has a cannon. Not as much as he does as he used to.
Yeah.
But, like, he doesn't have great touch on the ball. He's not insanely accurate like Drew Brees and Tua Tagovailoa, and I think Bryce Young is.
Yeah. I think I would like to see him try it, though. The fact that he won't even attempt it most plays.
He tried. He tried in Denver. Like, he actively tried to become that in Denver back-to-back years. It's just he doesn't work. It doesn't work for him because he's not that kind of player.
To me, it's more when I see him get pressured, like you see the pocket completely encircle, he's trying to find a way out. He's not. It's instinct. And that's something that you practice and train to get out of.
Yeah, but like, once again, when you've won a Super Bowl and you've gone this far off of that ability, there is like it's instinctual. You kind of are who you are at that point. Those first 3 years of developing a quarterback mean more than anything. And I know Tom Brady's been able to figure out a way to adapt his game style and grow, but he might be one of the few that is allowed to. When the game is ever adapting and in a world where offensive linemen skill play is going lower and defensive linemen are becoming more athletic beasts than they've ever been, if your quarterback is not able to escape and navigate a pocket at least above average, like, you are a liability offensively now.
And that's where Russ is in my mind.
That's across the board.
Because he can't navigate it anymore.
Yeah.
Because he was relying too much on pure athleticism, not enough on drills and talent, I feel. Like he never honed that skill.
Let's go through Never Too Late news. We'll hit it pretty quickly. Not too much to talk about, but I do want to talk about the number one thing. Tua Tagovailoa and Brian Flores. Apparently there was some beef there. We always kind of knew that there was something there.
Yeah.
I remember you talked about it because you were kind of on this Brian Flores kind of got robbed of a job a few years ago.
I don't know if it wasn't that he got robbed. I think the team did him dirty.
Yeah.
But it was in a very similar way of how they went about it was wrong in my mind, but he needed to get out of that situation.
But you were also very much you do not like the way Brian Flores coaches.
I'm not a fan of his coaching style. No. Because his coaching style, and he said in the press conference, so getting into what this is, Tua basically called him a terrible person. And when asked about that, he was like on the Dan Labart show. And when I like Tua, basically the
Dan
quote,
Lebitard.
Dan Lebitard.
Yeah, very very big guy. Very big guy. That's getting clipped. And
that's
tagged.
fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. But no, basically what Tua, the quote is, he's like, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, you don't belong doing what you do, and that you shouldn't be here, and then that guy should be here, and you haven't earned his right, like that's not a coaching mentality I enjoy out of somebody. It's not a coaching mentality I think that drives younger people too well. Basically being told like just the whole you're bad, and try to motivate someone to prove you wrong just doesn't feel like it fits too well in a lot of sports.
True.
Because you're not developing, you're being critical. Like you're not explaining, hey, you're not good at this, hone this part of your game. You should look at this in a different way.
I think there's a time and place for both.
There's a time and place for both, but I think the fact that if it's every single day, you're not coaching anymore, you're just being a critic.
Yeah.
And
did you hear what Tom Brady said about it?
I didn't hear what Brady said, no.
So Brady was talking about it, and he said that Tua's, he didn't say soft, but was like Tua's soft, pretty much. And he's like, that coaching, I loved it when my coach did that because it's supposed to fire you up and inspire you, and he's actively telling you, hey, you're not doing something right. You need to lock in. You're not there. He's like, can you use that to fuel you and push? And once again, I am sick and tired of standing up for Tom Brady. That's my third time this show. I'm not allowed to stick up for him anymore. If I am, I'm going to put hot sauce on my tongue. I'm sick of it.
But I think that's the difference with being a coach is you need to read your players and figure out how to best motivate them.
I agree.
Like that, you've had that issue with a lot of guys who try to replicate the Belichick way.
Yeah.
It does not work if you're just going to be critical.
I think in a world...
That's been... Brian Flores came out of that tree. You had Matt Patricia come out of that tree and try to replicate the Bill Belichick hard-nosed style.
I think
it does not work. It does not motivate guys.
I think it's different. I think younger athletes don't respond to it, and older athletes really like it. Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay is hard on Matthew Stafford. They get in fights. I think older, more veteran quarterbacks clearly have that relationship with their coach because they understand what that is. I think younger players who have been coddled all throughout high school, all throughout college, because that's what it is now. High school and college athletes who are good enough to be like, okay, I'll just go play at Kansas State next year and get paid $500,000 to go play.
But that's not the Tua situation, though.
But it is kind of what is happening.
I think the difference is trust. I think the big difference here is trust. Like with Stafford and McVay, you know McVay is...
Correct, they do trust each other.
They trust each other. So when they get into it, it's iron sharpening iron in my mind.
Yeah.
When you're immediately treating your rookie quarterback that, like, and you're in the media telling people that he's not that good.
I think it's a way of like the old and the new not clashing.
But that's up to the coach to adapt.
Correct. I still think that's...
Because then you lose your job.
Coaching, correct.
Then you
and
lose
your job. And getting blackballed from ever.
Well, so he's the defensive coordinator in Minnesota now.
Yeah, but he should have been the head coach somewhere. He should have.
I don't know if he should have because he didn't coach that. Like even outside of this, they didn't.
He has a winning record as head coach. He does.
But okay, so his response. So Flores did the Vikings held a press conference where Flores could respond, and he's basically responded saying, I'm always going to correct. I'm up to a high standard.
Yeah.
Talking about like how like it did hurt him a little bit coming out of Tua, but the big thing that he was saying was he was talking about he is taking this chance to grow. He's trying to improve as a person, and he was talking about based on what he did in Miami. He was reflected on it and is trying not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Which. I think,
good.
Yeah, it's good. It shows growth.
Yeah,
that shows growth for the guy, so I respect that. But I think that even if you're able to look back and go, I cannot coach like that again, you messed up. You were in the wrong in that situation.
I don't know. I think it's definitely a clash of like defensive older coach because defensive coaches talk way differently than offensive coaches do.
I'm looking at this.
It's a different aspect of like. I think it's just cultures, and I think when you get around like older coaches who have even coached at the high school level, who like talk about generations of kids, you can clearly hear their opinions about how kids are nowadays. Now, I think that's just like old people being old sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think there is some truth in that. I think their perspective matters in that conversation.
to me, I'm looking at the way I see this is similar to what Urban Meyer did. Is like where he's just just kicking players, treating them like trash. Like I'm not saying he went to that extent, but it's more of a this is how I'm going to coach. This is how I want to treat you. If you don't like it, leave.
Urban Meyer was hanging out in bars.
No, I'm saying as a coach.
Yeah. Urban Meyer also.
But how he treated his players, like
Urban Meyer won 2 natties. Okay, treat him with a little bit more respect.
Hell no.
I mean, but like, I don't know.
No, I think this just showed me that Flores at that time was not able to change as a person, not able to adapt as a coach, and I think that's not how you should coach.
But there are other players that are coming out and being like, he's a great head coach. I would have loved for him to stay the head coach.
Not many from that Miami team. Well, the defense a little bit, but not many players.
The defensive guys, yeah.
You've had more players come out being critical of him than anything.
That's true.
And that is concerning.
Yeah. You've hated Brian Flores for a while.
I don't think I hate him. I just don't like how he handles things.
Yeah.
There's you need to earn the trust of your players and respect first before you start going down that route.
It's not the same league it was 15 years ago when Tom Coughlin could be like and Bill Belichick could be like, you're out of here. They can still be like, you're out of here, but it's just a little different now.
It is a little bit different because I don't think the players have more autonomy. They're able to have more right. They're able to stand up for themselves more.
I like that.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to talk about is the White Sox being the worst team in baseball. They are bad.
Yes.
When I wrote this in our notes, Doc, they were on schedule to have the longest losing streak. They beat the Yankees.
Yeah, they broke that streak.
They broke the streak. The White Sox are still absolutely awful.
As of today, 30-97.
Yeah,
for the record.
They have to win, I think, 43 games.
Yeah.
To not be the worst team in history.
They're clearly in full tank. There's been speculation for 2 years that they're going to move.
They are going to move. They're going to move to Tennessee, I think.
Well, that was the original conversation, was they were going to move to Tennessee. Then a couple months ago, it started popping up. Are they going to move 5 miles to the north and stay in Chicago? There's also the speculation.
I would like that way more.
Well, there's also the speculation that the owner's trying to sell.
And
so they are one of the
disappointing.
They're one of the only 2 teams right now to not have a contract worth over $100 million.
Yeah, they're actively tanking.
They're active, and I think it's just they're trying to save as much money as possible so the owner could keep as much at the end of the season and then sell the team.
Who knew the Athletics weren't going to be the worst dumpster fire in the league?
It was surprising to me. To me, it's surprising, honestly.
Deconstructing the stadium as the season's going on.
No, but
there's pictures of rows and
they're tearing it down.
Yeah, there's active areas where they're like, you can't go over there. We're destroying it right now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But I think the White Sox are doing that with their roster right now. They entered the league 15th highest salary in the entire MLB. After the trade deadline, dropped to 25th highest.
It happened so fast. In 2021, White Sox were talking about how this young core was ready to make a run, and they felt like it was 2005 all over again. And
they've shipped everybody away.
It's gone. None of those guys panned out, and it's full tank mode. And if you're a White Sox fan and you're looking for hope, it's almost Bears season. So,
but to me, the hope is if this team does get sold.
Yeah,
they have traded away if you watch the trade deadline, they did 4 or 5. They sent away 4 or 5 of their more startable players. But with the big thing that they got in return that they've been loading up on the last 2 seasons is their farm system is now one of the better ones in the league. They have an abundance of prospects. To me, that means if you sell this team, the next few years you could start rolling these guys into the majors. If they pan out, you have a lot of hope.
Prospects are weird.
But prospects are you don't have to pay them.
I know.
That's why that's what I'm leaning towards. I think this team's going to get sold. Yeah. They load up the farm system, so the next owner goes, "You have potential. You have a team that could run pretty quick, pretty soon.
Go get it."
But I'm going to save as much money and keep the salary as low as possible to make as much money for myself.
Michigan football being investigated for cheating scandal. Kind of. The Connor Stallions coming out with a documentary about what's going on.
I don't like this.
Jim Harbaugh getting kind of suspended if he signs to any college team. It's I think a year suspension.
10 game is what 10 game about.
Yeah,
I've seen it reported both. So there's 2 investigations.
There's a couple. Yeah.
Well, no, there's 2 main ones.
Yeah.
It's into the current head coach.
In recruiting
Sharon Moore.
Sharon
Moore, and that's the allegation right now. They gave a notice of allegations, which the NCAA pursues legal action in 2 ways. Mm-hmm. They did the 90-day notice of allegations. which just happens to coincide with this Netflix documentary
They know what
that
they're doing.
Stallion's doing. I don't like that. Like, I'm not a fan of that kind of... Either do it afterwards or...
The NCAA, you have to remember, is about getting clicks, views, and people paying attention to them because they are in such a cramped space of sandwich between NFL. So they need as much drama and people having eyeballs on one of the biggest brands in football immediately. So and doing this investigation during the season.
The whole idea of this notice of allegations, they have 90 days since they've issued it, which happens to end a week after the documentary comes out. They have 90 days to pursue a hearing. During that 90 days, Michigan is allowed to work with the NCAA. That's why you hear a cheating scandal come up or you hear a scandal come up that doesn't really pan to be anything in the media and you don't really hear about what happened. That's because either the NCAA let it go or, like, similar to how Terrell Pryor was when he was getting paid at Ohio.
Yeah.
Or he was getting his signatures.
Tattoos. He was getting tattoos.
Well, he was signing stuff and selling it. But tattoos. They were able to kind of just wash it away because they were able to negotiate and never actually do anything with it. So that to me says they issued this going, hey, if what Netflix comes out with is anything new, then we're already ready. But if there's nothing, they're able just to wash their hands and walk away, which I think is pretty crappy.
Terrell Pryor fact, that was the Raiders' old owner's last pick before he died. Art?
Oh, that's sad.
Is it Art? Who's their owner?
Al Davis?
Al Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad to hear, actually.
Yeah, that was Al Davis's last pick, and he died, and then Terrell Pryor had that 92-yard run.
Yeah.
Remember that run on the Raiders? And people were like, oh, my God, was his last pick our franchise quarterback? I don't know if you know this. Newsflash, he wasn't.
No, but he had flashes. He had some interesting potential.
Yeah, Terrell Pryor.
So that's one of the allegations. The other one is if they followed COVID protocol in 2022 during recruiting. But that's kind of weak 2 years later. Like, I'm sure they didn't slap him on the wrist then, go after him then. 2 years later is kind of a long time to try to find any evidence.
I love college football. I'm the biggest college football fan I know in my life.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that's a bigger college football fan than me. Some nights I'm a bigger college football fan than I'm an NFL fan. Here's my thing. I don't care. Michigan won a national championship last year.
Yeah.
Even if you strip them for whatever Connor Stallions did, it doesn't take back the fact that they smacked teams in the face and beat them. That will always, even if you take away the banner, it will always be etched in the brain. I'm also been a guy who's been standing here proudly telling you Reggie Bush won that Heisman, no matter... I know you guys finally gave back to him, but, like, you didn't for years, and I was standing there being like, you did give it to him, and it's his. I'm going to stand here, and even if you take away Michigan's title, which I didn't want them to win, I still have to stand on my morals and be like, Michigan won that.
Yeah.
They had one of the best seasons I've seen in college football. I don't think they're one of the best teams of all time, but I think
that season was the best season.
I think they were lucky enough to be in the era where they could pay all their players to come back because Blake Corum was going to be a draft pick, and there was a lot of offensive linemen that were ready to go be draft picks.
Yeah, but they're able to rally the troops for one
and
Ross
be like,
rod.
just come back. JJ's coming back. We'll pay you a bunch of money. Donovan Edwards is also going to be good. Like, it's a whole thing. Yeah.
But I think this does bring up the larger conversation, which was speculated at a little bit last year, and now it's reemerging in a big way because of this.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Sure.
Do you think they cheated?
Michigan?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they did a little bit.
Do you think their cheating allowed them to win a national championship?
I think their cheating allowed them in as much as I think every college cheats a little bit.
Correct.
And I think that they were just a little more efficient that season than everybody else.
Connor Stallions worked for the FBI.
I think that, to me, it worked then. Obviously it did.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger question that we've seen come up a little bit end of last year, beginning of 24 now, especially with this Michigan, are we going to see schools split off from the NCAA? Because you've already had Maryland's athletics director come out saying he's talked to multiple athletics director across the Big Ten, across the SEC, and the ACC, saying that they might go and try to form their own governing body because of the issues the NCAA does, because they pull this stuff just to get clicks, just to get media likes out there, because they really have no legal authority.
The top 60 brands are going to branch off into its own league, while the Power 5 schools, your smaller schools like your Nevadas and your, Arkansas States, who are good schools, Boise States, your Louisville. Louisville will probably get in the top 60. Those teams will play in their own little conference, and I will love that. I'll watch my action. They'll do their thing. They'll play in their own playoffs. They're already discussing about a Group of 5 playoff in its own right. I want relegation. I really want relegation.
I think relegation would add so much to college football.
You do the big conference, which is like the top 12 teams, whoever finished in the top 12, and it puts emphasis on bowl games again.
Yeah.
Because now, even if you're not in the college football bracket or whatever, you want to get into that top 25. Let's call it top 25 because it's the rank. You want to get into that top 25 division because that division, you want to win your bowl games. That's how you get into that. You lose your bowl games, you relegate down to the next league.
But so you're looking at top 25 in bowl games. So I'm saying the conversation, a lot of like what Maryland's athletics director has come out saying is leaving the NCAA completely.
No, yeah, I think the NCAA is going to die because schools, for some reason, it took them 80 years to figure out, these guys can do nothing. They don't do anything.
They don't.
Except tell us that our games matter. Well, the only thing that matters to us is that our fans care that the games matter. We don't need anyone to tell us, this is the specific trophy, and this trophy is the thing that matters that you're fighting for. No, college football is this awesome thing where you're fighting for pride between your locals,
the local stuff. Yeah. I think we are going to see a new division, like a new conference, I don't want to say conference because conference still makes it seem like NCAA, but a whole new league essentially branch out of this.
College athletics is about to change in the next 5 years.
Yes.
It's already gone through the most change it's ever gone in the last 5 years.
And that's the thing is it took lawsuits from state governments to push this outside of the school because NCAA never wanted to change.
Because the NCAA was an unjust program that was profiting off of children.
Yes,
and it still does.
Yeah,
and we're not about it. Down with the NCAA. That's why the video game's not named after you anymore. You guys lost. Suck it.
Oh my goodness.
Question of the day. Let's wrap this show up.
Sure.
Question of the day, Don. It's an easy one. If you have to make a pick this year, what is the first head coach to get fired during the season?
McCarthy.
You think Mike McCarthy doesn't make it through the entire season?
I think
if you had to make a pick.
If I had to make a pick, I think he's the one in the hottest seat.
Not Dennis Allen.
I
have Dennis Allen.
I think no matter what, Sirianni's in the other hot seat. I think no matter what, because of the cap space, because they can't make any real changes to this roster right now, they're just going to let Dennis Allen ride it out. Until they can actually make real change on what's going to happen for the future years. Because they're locked into this for another, not only just this season, they're locked into this cap space issue for next year too. So I don't see why changing a head coach won't change the team.
Yeah, but
then it's not going to help anything.
I don't think they're going to fire him, mainly because if they would have done that, they would have done it last year, so that way they can move Dan Quinn to the starter or the head coach. They don't really got a guy like that they can shift
for McCarthy?
to. Yeah, on that coaching staff, Dennis Allen, they'll just be like, whatever, we'll just hire whatever athletics coach to put it in. We know that this team's about to blow up. All the contracts are over. Let's just call it.
Their contracts aren't done for another 2 years. That's what I'm saying for the Saints. So I think Allen has one more year. It may be an off-season thing when they try to ship out as many players as possible when they get out of the cap space issue.
I think they're just gonna.
If the Cowboys don't perform,
I don't think they're gonna perform this year. I'm really feeling like I know I've already picked them today to come in second in their division. I kind of, when we do our final season preview, I kind of might pick them to not make the playoffs.
Sure. I mean, it is in the realm of outcomes in my mind, but considering McCarthy's already on his last year of his contract, really, he's due for a new deal. If you're going to blow the team up and try to...
like it.
Yeah, this is the time to do it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Bust Picks. Go check out our TikToks. We're going to be posting some new stuff, and maybe next week we'll have some new stuff on the wall. But until then, guys, remember, pray for the parlay.